In Avik Roy, a former campaign advisor to both Mitt Romney and Rick Perry, and a Forbes opinion editor. Good to see you, Avik. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Maria, how are you?
What are your thoughts? You think Paul Ryan takes the job?
Well, the word on the street is that Paul Ryan is now open to taking the job if the ultra-conservatives will go with him and not do the tail wagging the dog thing on every little vote that comes along the way. It's not obvious that that's the case, though. They still have a lot of demands that they want to hold him to, and it's not clear that they're going to be able to come to agreement on that.
That's really interesting that's one of the things that Paul Ryan is saying, because right off the bat he's saying, look, I'm going to come in here if in fact I am open to this, but I'm going to bring people together, and I need to make sure that I've got the buy-in on the from the Freedom Caucus so that we don't have all of these divisions. I mean, that's certainly a smart way of beginning this.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Paul Ryan, as you know, doesn't want this job. He's happy being House Ways and Means Chairman, where he can do all the things on tax reform and the budget that he's long wanted to do. That's been his dream job for 6, 8, 10 years. And so to be Speaker, he's not going to have that policy role that he's wanted to have. And as has been shown over the last couple of years, it's a tough job being Speaker, herding the cats and getting everyone to agree on things.
Right.
I just want to point out really quickly that Congressman Jim Jordan, who runs the Freedom Caucus, was on Fox News Sunday yesterday with Chris Wallace, and although the Freedom Caucus is still backing Daniel Webster, he did say, when asked, that the Freedom Caucus members would look favorably on Paul Ryan as the new Speaker. So it looked like yesterday that the caucus is opening the door to that.
That's a big positive, Mike.
Yeah, and I think it really speaks to the dysfunction within the party right now, that you have a guy who's really fit for the job, that a lot of people want in the job in Paul Ryan, and yet I think it's a great move by him to say, I'll come in, I'll take the job, but I'm only going to do it if I can have some people line up behind me, if there's not going to be all this pushing back and forth and this infighting within the party. I think it's a great move by Paul Ryan, and hopefully he gets the job, takes the job, and can bring some cohesiveness within the Republican Party.
Which really begs the question, why could Kevin McCarthy not say that? And I guess the answer is because he was in the same vein as, I suppose, John Boehner was. So perhaps the Freedom Caucus wanted nothing to do with that. But Paul Ryan is really coming in with a very powerful position. So maybe a question for Avik is, really there's a few big agenda items that are coming up in December, and one of them is the debt ceiling. What is your expectations for how the would-be Speaker, Paul Ryan, would handle that?
That's a great question. So I was just going to say that one of the things that's really interesting about this debate between the leadership and the majority of the House caucus and the House Freedom Caucus is it's not really issue-driven. The debt ceiling is one issue where the House Freedom Caucus wants to say, let's not raise the debt ceiling. But you have to raise the debt ceiling unless you're willing to reform entitlements. And who's the guy who's the point man in the conservative movement in America on entitlement reform? It's Paul Ryan.
Right.
And so this is one of the interesting things. This is a debate between the leadership and the House Freedom Caucuses. It's more about, in their case, process. Can we have representation and leadership? Will you make sure that you don't run primary candidates against us? Whereas for leadership, it's more about, can we get these budget deals through? Can we get the debt ceiling deal through? And that's the debate. It's not really about issues. It's about process, which tells you that the challenges here are pretty difficult. When it's about issues, you can hatch deals. When it's about process, maybe it's tougher.
Yeah, but one challenge has been the fact that, they have not been able to get anything through the Senate. I mean, you speak to representatives in the House, and they'll say, we've passed a lot of bills. We wanted those bills to get to the president's desk, and then the president could have, vetoed them, and that would have been his legacy. And yet it didn't happen because they couldn't get the votes in the Senate. So what does Paul Ryan have to do with that? I mean, is he going to have success in terms of getting things through to the president's desk?
Great point. And it's also, we're in the 7th year of an 8-year Democratic presidency,
right.
And there's a lot of frustration and pessimism that builds up over that period of time. And I hope that if there's a Republican president or a nominee who articulates views that unify this broad spectrum of conservatives, that maybe in that way people start to say, okay, maybe if we recapture the White House, we can all rally behind that agenda.
By the way, who's that person?
But that's not evident right now.
Who's that person, Avik?
Well, I do think it's going to come from one of the more experienced candidates. I don't think the so-called outsiders, the people who have never held political office, are going to be able to unite the party in that way.
Okay. Avik, good to have you on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maria.